Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. On this 335th episode of the podcast, I'm doing a lot of gear reviews. A lot of them. So if you like gear, if you like shopping, then stick around because I'm pretty sure this will make you happy. But before I get to that, I just want to extend another thank you as I've had a boost of listeners lately. So if you are new to the podcast, thank you. But at the same time, if you've been around for years, then thank you as well. And to all of you, no matter how long you've been listening, if you have not taken a few seconds to go over to either Spotify or iTunes, whatever your podcasting platform of choice is, and leave a rating and review, I would certainly ask you to do that, and I would absolutely appreciate it. That gets the podcast up in the charts and gets it in front of more people, which is great for numbers, but it's also great because it expands the community, and I just really appreciate the interactions I have. And as great as that is to have the algorithm help me, my favorite way to hear about people finding the podcast is because they've been shown the podcast by other listeners. So if you know somebody in your life that is new to fly fishing or that's been fly fishing for a long time, and you think maybe the content of this podcast and the website Casting Across would be something they'd be into, then let them know, and let me know that you let them know, and that would make me happy. All right. Well, with all those fun little things out of the way, we're going to get to gear reviews. But here's what today's gear reviews are. Today's gear reviews are more like gear features because I am talking about gear that is being platformed in the Consumer Choice Awards of the Fly Fishing Show from 2025. What is that? Well, let me explain it and hear me out on why I'm doing this. So the Consumer's Choice Awards of the Fly Fishing Show started probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was an opportunity for folks attending the fly fishing show to go around and say, these are the products that interest me the most. Now, let me make that clear. No matter how it's pitched, no matter what other people say, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Why is that what it is? Because no one is going to a fly fishing show, playing with a fly rod, and then saying, this is the best rod for catching fish. No one's going to a fly fishing show, getting in a boat on the expo show floor and saying, this is the best boat for paddling down a river. What they're saying is, these are the products that interest me the most, okay? And so that's an important thing and an important distinction to make, because some people I've heard critique and complain, because can you believe people will critique and complain about things that relate to fly fish on the internet? But they do, and they say, this is just a popularity contest, this is just a beauty contest, and to a certain degree, it is a beauty contest, because people are making judgments about the equipment they're looking at with their eyeballs, and maybe playing with their hands for a little bit, at an outdoor show, and then saying, this is the kind of thing that is most intriguing. This is the kind of thing that's most interesting. This is the kind of thing that I think you should go look at as you're making choices. So I'll give you a great example. The freshwater fly rod that won best freshwater fly rod this year at the fly fishing show was the new Orvis Helios. Now, you would have to be absolutely crazy to say it's not a good fly rod. In my mind, it was not the most exciting fly rod of the show. It's a great fly rod, and if someone wanted to give me one, I'd gladly fish with it. But in my opinion, the two rods that were the most exciting and intriguing were the Redington EDC and the Orvis Superfine. Those were the two fly rods that got me most excited. But I'm not going to say, oh no, the Helios shouldn't have won, because honestly, you pick up a Helios and it's going to cast really, really well. But there's probably at least another dozen fly rods at the show that you could say the same thing about it. But people just got together, voted, and said, this is the one that most of us were excited about. And so what does that do for you? And what do I want to kind of just really drill down on one more time before I start getting into these things? What this does is makes you say, that's something worth looking at. There's a lot of fly rods to look at, but I'm just going to make sure I take into account this one. And if I'm going to be fair, the high dollar items aren't probably not the things that you're going to get the most value from as you're looking at this list. It's the other stuff. It is the chest packs. It is the some of the fly tying things. Those are the things where you might say, I didn't realize that was out there. I mean, everyone knows about the Thomas & Thomas Exoset 88. Everyone knows about it. If you spent any time clicking around fly fishing websites, fly fishing magazines, fly fishing shop websites, you've seen this rod. So you're not going to say, I wonder if this is a good rod. You know it's a good rod. Thomas & Thomas makes good stuff. The Exoset line is good quality stuff. But when you get down to other things, like I'll talk about some Mets hackles. You're like, that's a really cool idea. I know there's a lot of options for me to get hackles, but here's one that maybe I want to take a few more minutes to look at because a lot of other people thought it was cool. All right. I don't say this to rationalize and justify. I say this partially because people just get really irate about the dumbest things. And, people just like to complain about things. And in fly fishing, of all things, why do we complain about stuff? But anyway, all that said, I'm going to dive into it. I'm going to hit as many as I can hit in the next 15 minutes or so and kind of give you my thoughts. Some of these things are things I simply played with. Some of these things are things that I actually own. And some of these things are things that I have no experience with. I just want to give you a couple of comments on. So anyway, to dive right into it, the best of show that was given this award and the Consumer Choice Awards this year was the Fish Pond Storm Shadow Chest Pack. So real quick, I will be putting a link to this website where you can see all of this stuff and the things I talk about and things I don't talk about in the podcast's show notes over at castingacross.com. I'll mention where you can find that at the end of the podcast episode. But best of show is the Fish Pond Storm Shadow Chest Pack. And, this is a cool product for a few reasons. One, Fish Pond has designed this to integrate into their other stuff. So Fish Pond makes some great backpacks. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm fishing in the backcountry or I'm out for a long, long time is to fish out of a backpack. It seems much easier to me than trying to cram more things into one of my slings. I fish out of a sling pack probably 9 out of 10 times. The other time I'm fishing in a backpack. But the Storm Shadow is part of a greater suite of products that Fish Pond has made, and it's made to integrate into a integrate into a backpack. It clips all together, so it gives you the option of having some stuff in front of you while most stuff is behind you. Another thing I like about this, and I looked at one when it was being shown off at the show, is the versatility. They give you lots of places to attach a lot of things, and any sort of storage or kind of gear carrying solution that I am going to want to look at with any sort of serious level of interest in fly fishing or in hunting or in anything else for that matter, it's going to give me options. It's not going to dictate where I put stuff. That's why I like the VitaVoo packs that I use. They're very, very simple, but they are very, very versatile. But this Storm Shadow from Fish Pond does that also, where it gives you a handful of options of where to put things. So this would be a great addition if you already have a Fish Pond backpack. But check it out. I mean, it's innovation is really what it is. It's nothing new in the sense that, no one's used a chest pack before. No one's integrated a chest pack with a backpack before. But with one of the industry leaders really trying to make something seamless and smooth, it's a cool thing to see and a cool thing to check out. So diving into the other end of the spectrum, let's go really, really tiny. I alluded to earlier that Mets has hatch bundles. They're called Hackle Hatch Bundles. And these retail for $18. And what I like about these is that they are very accessible fly tying options. So if you are a serious fly tyer and you are tying a lot of flies, there's a very good chance you're buying whole hackles. But whole hackles can be very intimidating to new fly tyers, young fly tyers on a budget, because they are not cheap. They're great because of the versatility that you get with them. You get, feathers that you can use for tying dry flies, feathers you can use for streamers, and everything in between. But say you just wanted to tie a particular pattern, because that's where you are as a fly tyer. You are limited in your scope, either because of your skill or because of your budget. Then when you go to these Mets graded hackle packs, hatch bundles, then you get a size and you get a couple of colors, and it gives you that option to tie flies in that size with hackles that have been graded for a particular use and a particular size application. Now, this is also a nice thing too, because honestly, if you're going to tie with any sort of seriousness, then you need to be able to, gauge your hackles yourself, but this will probably give you a hackle that, if not spot on, will be good enough. So you don't even have to factor that in as you tie. But Mets has had similar things in the past, but these have a combination of colors, which is a really cool thing that you can do, because for $18, it gets you everything you need to tie a handful of different flies. The next thing that won an award was the freshwater combo kit and saltwater combo kit, was both the Redington Field Kit. Now, I've talked about the Redington Field Kits before. I fish with the saltwater Field Kit. These are high end, and again, maybe some air quotes there, but they are really, really nice uh, fly fishing kits. You get a really good fly rod. I mean, I love the saltwater one that I have, the cold water saltwater one I have. It's a 9 weight. I've cast the trout one, the 5 weight one. They are really high quality fly rods. And then they're paired with a good reel. It's not some sort of dinky plastic reel that you might expect to come from a rod and reel combo. And then they have a high end reel line on them. And as I said before, and will continue to say until I'm done with casting across, you want good fly line. So I would strongly recommend checking out these field kits if you are wanting to expand your fly fishing into another horizon. So say you have a bunch of trout stuff and you are planning on, dipping your toe in the salt figuratively and literally when it comes to fishing. You think you'll probably do it a couple times a year, and you might end up doing it more. This is a great way to get a core set of gear that is going to serve you well, and you're not going to feel like you need to replace anytime soon. So these retail in like the 350 to like 390 range, and then there's a handful of different options, but real good gear. Nothing brand new, but it just continues to perform well. I think it says something about these Reddington field kits that they came out probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was during COVID. I know that I got mine. But that they continue to be good sellers because people like starting with, or adding to their arsenal, high end gear, not just kind of the cheap stuff. Next up is a shirt. A shirt. Yes, the Grundens, it's called the Tough Sun Hoodie. Now, I love fishing out of long sleeves and a hood, really every month out of the year. If it's not for staying warm and staying dry, it's to keep the sun off of me. I don't like the sun, and I don't like sunscreen even more. And so, to protect my skin, I will wear sun hoodies in the middle of the summer, where I'm fishing in salt, where I'm fishing freshwater, where I'm on the lake, when I'm waiting, whatever it may be, I have a sun hoodie on. But one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts about them is how they the exchange for lightweight and breathable often means that they are not very durable. And so I have a handful of really nice, real expensive sun hoodies where they've got little pulls all over them. And you might say, who cares, you're just fishing? Well, if I spend that amount of money, I want it to kind of have a little bit more durability. So Grundens, because I mean their whole thing is tough. Their whole thing is stuff that's going to be durable and rugged and going to last. For $45, which is a great price for a UV, it's UPF 50 rated. It is also marketed as being more durable than the average shirt. I love how they advertise it as built for the rigors of the boatyard or backyard. And so this is the kind of thing where you can feel a little bit better about spending a little bit more, but $45 for a long sleeve sun hoodie from a name brand is a really good price. So if you have been slathering sunscreen on, as you fish in the warmer weather, and you want to try something a little bit better, then definitely check out Grundens and check out this sun hoodie. I think it is a great option for folks who like to fish a little bit smarter. Something that I don't talk about enough on the Casting Across Fly Fishing podcast is new flies. And part of it is because you really either have to be a nerd when it comes to flies to notice these things, or you have to spend a lot of time looking at different flies. But the Fly Fishing Show is a great opportunity to see new flies because there's a handful of companies, Umpqua and Rio being two of them, that will show off flies that are now in their catalog. And these days, a lot of the flies that are entering their catalog are flies that are developed by or refined by or tweaked by some sort of tire, whether it be a guide or a professional fly tire or something like that. And the one that caught my eye is Rio's Webster Tactical Crab, tied by Joe Webster and part of the Rio catalog. And it's a really cool crab pattern because of the way it integrates tungsten beads to provide a keel for the fly, as well to provide a little bit of sound. So if you've ever fished crab flies in the salt, whether it be for stripers or whether it be on the flats down in a tropical climate, you know that this thing needs to fish right. It needs to be fishing in the right way, and it also is helpful if that fly can get down quickly to be in that strike zone. So to have the tungsten beads lined up shipped the way that they are, not only creates a really cool profile, but it makes sure that flies gets down quickly, and it also makes sure that fly is in that the right perspective as it gets in front of the fish. So it's a cool looking fly. I mean, I think a lot of folks, they see these flies and they go out and buy them. But I would say even more, look at these flies and say, I wonder how I can start to integrate those types of techniques and that design idea into the flies that I tie. And I'm already thinking about crayfish and how I could utilize some of these design techniques from the Webster Tactical Crab in my crayfish flies as I fish for bass and other warm water fish. Another item from Fish Pond, it's not a new thing, but it's a thing that I think definitely deserves its award for. This was the accessory under $50. And I mean, that's a huge category of little tiny fly fishing gadgets and stuff like that. It's the Fish Pond River Keeper Thermometer. So there's parts of the country where you live, and you probably need to have a thermometer because thermal issues, especially in the summertime, make fishing a bad idea for the fish and, to a lesser degree, a less productive day for you. But I advocate carrying some sort of thermometer on your person when you fish because, especially if you fish someplace where there are thermal dynamics, whether it be influxes of water from feeder creeks, whether it be springs, knowing what the temperature is with that sort of precision, because you're not going to feel it with your wading, your waders and your wading pants underneath them. Having that sort of precision can help you figure out and pattern and target fish. A normal thermometer that you pick up from the store for, whatever, $5 or $10 is great. But having an analog thermometer, it can be an issue when it's jangling around being shoved in your pack. So this one is digital. It has replaceable batteries, which not every thermometer does. It's waterproof, which is really important if you're going to be using it to take the water temperature. And it's just a durable little over-engineered piece of equipment. For $30, if you are wanting to talk the environmental talk, then $30 is a small price to pay to walk that talk, right? So that's one thing to consider. And secondly, it's also just a good, helpful tool for being able to get out and find where the fish might be, especially as the weather gets warmer. So this last product, it might not be the last product, but we're getting to the end. This product, I never saw it, so I don't know if it wasn't at the show that I was at or if I just missed it. But it is a fly fishing journal from Handbound Designs, and it's $75. It's not cheap, but it is either a cloth bound, leather bound, or imitation leather bound journal with a cool design of a fly and a fly line whipping around it. But then it also has everything you would need to journal about your fly fishing. And of course, you do whatever you want with that. You record data or you record feelings. But I think it's just a really well made looking product. I'm simply looking at the thing. But having something like this, yes, you could get a notebook from the Dollar Tree for $1 and accomplish the same thing, or you could spend a little bit of money and get a nice one. I think a lot of folks probably would aim for that middle, getting a nice moleskin, notebook for $15 or $20. But for a little bit more, then you can have this, and they have actually color pictures of flies on the pages too. So it's one of those things. It would be a gift. It would be something special. It's just an interesting and neat thing. Handbound Designs Fly Fishing Journal. All right, one more. It's the fly rod, the freshwater fly rod, and that is the Orvis Helios. So again, people bust on the white label, but I think they think that they've stuck with it enough, and you got to say, people are not slowing down and buying the rods because of that white label, and they cast so well. So a couple things. Yes, $1,000 fly rod. There's that. Secondly, they are a big company, and for some reason people kind of push back on that. But go do yourself a favor and cast one of these rods. They are really, really nice fly rods. So might this be a more specialized piece of gear for somebody? Yes. Might this also be the kind of gift that you get somebody who has everything? Absolutely. Might this be the kind of thing that you buy when you want to treat yourself? Of course. But I would say that what this Consumer Choice Awards program does is it should make you think, I just want to go check this out. It's not saying you have to buy it. It's not saying that you need it, but just go check it out. And so whether it be at an Orvis store, at a fly shop, go cast an Orvis Helios. I think one of the fun things to do is cast a D and cast an F. That's the distance-based one and the finesse-based ones, and compare and contrast and see how there's true engineering in this equipment. Now, again, not advocating for you to buy a $1,000 fly rod, but this is just a great example of the leaps and bounds that are being made in the engineering and in the manufacturing of high-end gear. All right, so I hit 20 minutes. I'm going to put a pause on it. There's another 25, 30 things, and I'll share that link with you here in a minute. But definitely check it out. And again, don't get bent out of shape that your favorite brand or your favorite thing or the same name pops up a whole bunch. It's just a great starting point as you are thinking about gear. And if you have no design or desire on getting new gear, then you can ignore it. But if you're just interested to see what's out there, then it's definitely a great place to start. This week on Casting Across, 2 articles. As per usual, the first one is called Skunk Salvation. So this is a fictitious story, but I've heard from a handful of folks who are like, you're writing about me. And to me, that's like the best. That's absolutely fantastic. So read Skunk Salvation. It's relatively short, but it's kind of a return to a lot of the content that used to be on Casting Across, kind of more story-based stuff. So definitely check that out. Wednesday's video is called Limestone Legends, and I'm talking about one of my absolute favorite books. Limestone Legends, it's the Papers and Recollections of the Fly Fishers Club of Harrisburg from 1947 to 1997. I also show off a really cool piece of memorabilia. But if you are a student of fly fishing history, if you are an East Coast fly fisher, then definitely check out this book. If you are a South Central Pennsylvania angler, Yellow Breeches, Big Spring, Letort, Falling Springs, you owe it to yourself to find this book, track it down. You can only get used copies, but definitely find Limestone Legends. And I also share another really, really good book in that video as well, so check that out. This week's recommendation on the podcast is to go to the website, click on this show's name over on Casting Across, and then click on the link, which will take you to the winners of the Fly Fishing Show's Consumer Choice Awards. And then I would love to hear what you think you would add to that list. And if you had any questions, I might not be able to answer them, but if I can, I will absolutely do so. But again, it's just a fun thing. It's all it is. And hopefully you can see it for that. And it's just fly fishing. Relax. It's just fly fishing. All right. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast app and rate the podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.